People that have willingly engaged in incest. Why? Has your life changed because of it? Attention. Serious tag notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I'm a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit /message/compose/ to /r/askreddit if you have any questions or concerns. I had sex with my cousin when we were both 17. It was consensual and there were never any guilty feelings from either side. We only had sex the one time, but I think it was because we both fell into long-term relationships shortly after we slept together. Our relationship never changed after we slept together. This was over 20 years ago, and we still talk on a pretty regular basis with no weirdness. Last year's I started to engage sexually with my first cousin. She was 16. I was 17 male. At first, we just made out, but it slowly progressed to handjobs from her and fingering from me. Soon, she was giving me blowjobs and well, we wanted to do more, but we couldn't find a way to do it without getting noticed. This year, though, we worked it out and managed to do it. We did it 2 times while we were drunk. I can't say I disliked it or I feel guilty or anything. It is amazing. We are both susps. She's hot and thinks I'm hot as well. I only see her once or twice a year, but I always look forward to it. I don't give ups. I posted this in another question before, and I'm too lazy to rewrite it all, so here it is. When I was 15, I'm female, my younger brother 14, and I lived in an almost psychotically sheltered home. We bounced around foster homes a lot, but this was by far the most restrictive. Our foster parents were incredibly religious and overprotective. They never had kids of their own, so they didn't really know how to parent, I guess. It was clear that they cared about us deeply, and they didn't intend to hurt us or make our lives difficult. That much was obvious. They were just misguided. They homeschooled us and kept us home almost 100% of the time. We rarely got any outside interaction, except when friends of theirs would bring their children over to visit. It was brutal on our mental state. Both he and I went for months without any sexual release and barely any contact with the opposite sex outside of each other. Eventually I couldn't take it anymore, so I went to the bathroom to masturbate in the early hours of the morning when I was sure our foster parents were asleep, and apparently my brother had the same idea. We were both extremely sexually frustrated, and I couldn't take it anymore. Although it was consensual, at the time I kind of felt that I forced him into having sex with me. He was hesitant, since he didn't want me to regret it in the future, but I insisted. So, he accepted. It was probably my biggest regret for most of my life after that, and I feared that he had deep-seated resentment for me. He's pretty much the only family I had left, and I was afraid that I would lose him too due to my selfishness. It took over 10 years for me to finally go to him and ask for forgiveness, and to my surprise he wasn't mad at all. It was a huge relief, and he and I aren't awkward around each other anymore. Edit. I'm blind. I'm counting step-siblings. It just sort of happened. Our parents got married, and a couple years later we still hadn't developed a family bond of any sort. Still haven't. It started when her friend was over and had a huge crush on me, so they crash in on me when I'm just relaxing in the hot tub. We also had a pool, and it was late fall, so it was super cold, so a dare happened to switch back and forth between the pool and hot tub. This started a game of truth or dare and things got a bit sexual. Stuff like being naked in the bubbles of the hot tub, but we couldn't see anything. Then stuff like sitting on my lap and whatnot. Nothing more happened that night, but a couple days later we are both in the hot tub and start daring again. Things start to go the way they went before, but again nothing. My mom and her dad went to sleep super early, so we could really do this whenever. The dares started happening out of the hot tub and in the woods, and from there it began to escalate. I dare you to jerk off, or I dare you to take all your clothes off. It just kept escalating until we just sort of grinded on each other. We were both 13 until we both came. That happened a few more times, because neither of us could get a condom, and then I stayed at my dad's all summer and we stopped doing that stuff. We never mentioned it to anybody, and as far as each of us know the other has forgotten all about it. TL. Doctor, it escalated slowly. I feel like this is probably really common. Throw two teenagers who are essentially strangers into a house together and leave them unsupervised under the assumption that, because they're siblings, nothing will happen lol. That's not to say that lost of step siblings aren't just as close as the regular kind, but yeah. One of my cousins was in this position. Him and his stepsister actually ended up dating for like 5 years, longer than their parents were married. When their parents split they were both around 17, and at this point their parents had come to accept it. They were shacking up when they all lived together, so they ended up having a shared bedroom at her dad's house and his mom's, and they kinda went back and forth till they got their own place. I don't really know the story as to why they fell apart, but I was pretty surprised when I found out. When I was younger everyone used to make jokes about how he was gonna marry his sister, but we all knew they really did love each other. My cousin now has a beautiful wife and 2 kids, and he's an overall great guy. Involved with his church, coaches his son's baseball team, all that jazz. But he still used to his sister. Yeah, when their teenage relationship lasted longer than the marriage, then the kids probably knew they wouldn't always be siblings, haha. In all fairness, my aunt can be a real handful. She's a lovely lady, but dear god, if she isn't a damn crazy ass mess. She finally found someone who can handle her, and we've told him that before. He said she's a saint compared to his ex-wife, so they're a good match. I don't think this guy really knew what he got himself into before our first family reunion though. My family is very southern redneck, but not ignorant bigger redneck. At family gatherings there's always bush light and talk. He looked like he saw a ghost when hearing some of us roast each other. My family isn't really close at all. We used to have a family reunion every year, and even then only a select few would show up. When we'd have family reunions, someone would always do something stupid and get hurt. So we decided to stop having family reunions. Before we stopped we had one last big family reunion that everyone was going to come to. There were a lot of members of our family that we had never met. I was about 12 years old. My oldest brother was about 14. He was always the coolest kid around, matured at a very young age, and was very muscular. All the girls loved him wherever we went. We drove to this very small town, where the next day we'd be having our reunion. After getting there, me and my 2 brothers were walking around looking at everything. My brother spotted 2 girls about our age and insisted we start talking to them. The older of the 2 seemed very similar to my brother, very mature for her age, attractive, outgoing, and it was very obvious she was into my brother. My other brother and I, who did not feel the need to mate at every second of every day, had kind of put together that in this very small town that was hosting a family reunion with lots of family members we hadn't met might not be the best time to pick up women. After talking to them for a while, we figured out we were related. My oldest brother and the older girl had no idea. We thought it would be best to let them be embarrassed tomorrow when the reunion started. Nothing too big happened. We went to a hot springs and sat in there with them for a while. They got quite touchy with each other and made out. My brother bragged all night about the hot girl he had seduced. The next day, we walked into this big barn type building with tables laid out across them. My mom started introducing us to ask our cousins we hadn't met. Lo and behold, she introduced us to a very mature, attractive, and outgoing girl that had been sucking on my brother's face the day before. The looks of embarrassment were absolutely priceless. My other brother and I had burst out laughing, along with the girl's sister. We never told anyone, and just enjoyed the awkward embarrassment throughout the day. This sounds like something out of Malcolm in the Middle. Does this count? My 3rd cousin had an obsession with sex, and had me regularly ps her in the ass. We didn't even know we were related at first. We were friends at the time, who had a talk about sex, and decided to ps for fun. But after we found out, though surprised, we regularly made trips to O-Ring Plowtown. Still fantasize about that ass to this day. Legally, in the US, I believe, 3rd cousins are allowed to marry. In some states, 1st cousins are allowed to marry. And no, not just in the South. It's legal in California, too. I don't think any state has restrictions on 3rd cousins at all. My wife's family has multi-generational incest, to the point that she only has 3 sets of great-grandparents. There are no signs of problems in her generation, and they all married way outside the family tree. I like how you say way outside the family tree. Like they made up for all the incest by searching for partners that weren't even close, haha. At least one of them made a conscious decision to not date anyone in the little town their family comes from, just in case. Kinda related. My cousin and I were about 6 years old on holiday in caravans. Our parents were outside and we were in my caravan with my brother. I can't remember exactly how it started, but somehow I was lying down on a seat with her straddling me and kissing me. I did it because she was good looking, and apparently she thought I was too. And we were too young to care that we were related. My brother said we were in a lot of trouble, but I don't remember that. I just remember seeing my mum looking in the window and panicking. I don't know if that's changed my life, or if I was going to be a little psup anyway. She wasn't panicking. As far as I remember, I was. If this is incest, then I've done incest too, I guess. When I was little 5 or 6, my sister 4 or 5, and I saw a video of killer whales jumping out of the water and bonking their mouths together. My sister and I called it a whale kiss. We would make whale noises and then twiddle our tongues together with our mouths wide open. Now I realize we were unknowingly making out, but then it was just an innocent thing like an Eskimo kiss or something like that. Ha. This is hilarious. Innocent and adorable, yet disgusting and hilarious. Also one of those weird things a couple would do that no one else knows about.